Good evening, everyone. Today is Monday, November 20th, 2023. We'll now call the City Council regular meeting to order at 6:36 p.m. Item number 2, our roll call. We do have a quorum of council. Item number 3 is our pledge. It will be led by Shashi Kumar, Director of Public Works and City Engineer.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 4, public comments. City Secretary, do we have any public comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do. Israel McGuinn. Mr. McGuinn, as you approach the podium, please state your name and address for the record, and please adhere to the 3-minute time limit.
My name is Israel McGuinn. I would like to address, I live at 414 Oyster Creek Village Drive. We talked to a lot of people about the noise disturbance that's been going on back there with Beast Wine Bar. But, what I'm starting to understand is that we have a city ordinance in place right now about excessive noise. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it seems like a lot of people aren't familiar with it. And why they're not implementing, not saying anything about it, addressing our concerns, our issues. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I feel like it's something against us as residents there. Prime example, last night we had an officer, and I recorded the whole thing. One officer said he heard it, wanted to address the situation, watched him in the back of our cameras. Nothing ever happened. Nothing. I asked to speak to a sergeant to come out there 3 hours later. 3 hours later. This is at 10:30 at night. 10:30, and asked him to come on out. He went over there to the back of the business, said he didn't hear anything. But what I like to do is I like to keep everything recorded. And sure enough, in the video that I have, and I don't know who else needs to see the video, but you can hear the noise as well. And what I mean by noise is music. Talking about instrumentals, vocal, bass, you name it that has to do with music. We don't want to talk about the Highway 6 traffic because I don't hear that in my house. I don't hear none of that. What I do hear is the bass, the vocals. That's what we hear. And the fact that nobody isn't doing anything about it is an issue. I understand it's on the thing to go by a decibel reader and all this good stuff. Let's try it out, right? I'm all about trying things out. It's not going to work. But whatever, let's give it a try. But I will say, what are we going to do in the meantime? What are we going to do? It's a 2 hearing. That's a couple weeks from now. We got Thanksgiving around the corner. You got Christmas. Who's to say that that's going to be implemented by then? My son's birthday, that's December 20th. What am I going to do? Spend hours and hours outside waiting for an officer? Officer to actually, address the situation to where they hear it? On recording is an issue. And for him to say that he don't hear anything is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And I really feel he has something against us, and it's Sergeant Santos. And I would like to know who I need to speak to about making sure that he doesn't come back to our house ever again. He does not need to be over there. He doesn't address anything for us whatsoever. I appreciate it.
Lomia McGuinn. Please state your name and address for the record, and please adhere to the 3-minute time limit.
Actually, is there any way that I can piggyback off of whenever they talk about the agenda? Or when they bring it up and...
No, we're doing this under public comments.
Okay. I don't really...
That's correct.
Okay.
Sorry? What?
I was just confirming.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Okay, so kind of piggybacking off of... Lomia McGuinn, 414 Oyster Creek Village Drive. So kind of piggyback off of what Israel said earlier, just to kind of give you guys an update, I did a count of how many calls that we made to law enforcement in the last 6 months, and it totaled out up to date 281 times when we called. So what I would like to know, and this is probably something that will be brought up whenever you guys talk about the agenda, is if there was a sound engineer that made the determined the location, frequency, distance, all of that environmental factors that would be contributing to the decimal reader, because like Israel said earlier, the base travels. And there's a lot of issues where you have the levee that you guys are considering as a barrier, where it amplifies the noise, because like you do in the shower when you sing, everybody sounds good because that water, and everybody knows, right? So you guys are using that as a barrier, but it's not, and it doesn't protect us either. There's no privacy. There's nothing there in place that allows us to be able to live in our home privately, peacefully. And so I'm just kind of curious on whether that will be something that will be implemented, because last night the officer told us that he could not measure our discomfort, and he could not measure our peace, which is why he couldn't address it. So, which is kind of odd, but this is the comments that we're getting, and so it really makes it uncomfortable for us as well as our neighbors, but primarily for us because we're the ones that are addressing it. So I guess I'll just add on to that whenever you guys touch on the agenda. But I appreciate you guys having it on the agenda today. And Mr. Emery, I appreciate you talking to us in the HOA meeting. It was a pleasure officially meeting you. But anyways, we'll talk later. All right.
Thank you. I just want to clarify that we're not having a public hearing on this item.
Yes,
So
sir.
there's no conversation that's taking place during this item.
That is correct,
Correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I just want to make sure. Anyone else?
Yes, one more. Nicholas Sire.
Nicholas Sire. I'm here representing myself. I live in Missouri City as a registered voter. I had a longer speech prepared, but I just want to make one comment. At the last City Council meeting on November 6th, I encouraged key officials of Missouri City government to be proactive boots on the ground and gather input for projects that need the most attention. I read recently that the city started to implement efforts to issue a survey to a randomized group of constituents. This is great news, and I wanted to say thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes public comments.
What is this? Yeah, I guess each of us get a copy. All right. Item number 5, our consent agendas. Is there a motion? I see a motion by Councilmember Clauser, second by Councilmember Brown Marshall. No one's in the queue. Let's go ahead and vote.
Member Clauser? The motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Recognizing Councilmember Clauser.
Does he need to introduce item 6? Okay.
Item 6 are ordinances.
6A, an ordinance of the City of Missouri City, Texas, authorizing the city manager to establish an employee longevity incentive program in accordance with the fiscal year 2024 budget, providing for repeal and providing for severability.
Mayor, I would like to go into executive session for legal advice.
Okay, that's your motion.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Councilmember, recognizing Councilmember Boney.
I was going to, well, never mind. Let's just go ahead and go for it. I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilmember Clauser, second by Councilmember Riley.
So he's in the queue.
Oh, no.
I heard second by Councilmember Riley.
She did a verbal.
Oh, okay. So it says in the system. Okay, so motion by Councilmember Clauser, seconded by Councilmember Boney. If there are no other questions, let's go ahead and vote. Okay. All right, motion carries, right? So we'll go into executive session and we'll be out.
The items on the board that are crossed out in red are items that, upon further review, have been taken out. Those items require the procurement of an investigating attorney. They require the submission of a preliminary report prior to the first meeting of the Ethics Commission. What these changes do essentially is cut down about 60 days from the proposed timeline for the consideration of an Ethics Commission complaint. So as you all can see, this is the previous proposed complaint timeline. The addition of the preliminary meeting adds, as well as the procurement of an attorney, adds several days to the process, about 60 days to the process. And by taking those items out, the Ethics Commission would essentially consider or look at a complaint once it's filed within the first 10 days after they receive notice of that complaint. So that cuts some time down on this proposed timeline. Additionally, they wouldn't wait for a report from counsel. They can, of course, receive legal advice at any point during the process, but they would decide based on the information provided by the complainant whether they feel that there is enough evidence based on your code to move forward with a determination hearing or a dismissal under the regulations that are in the code. As mentioned, those are the only changes to the proposal that have been made. The green represents items that have been added. And again, it's that preliminary meeting and making that the time at which the commission decides whether or not there will be a jurisdictional determination, dismissal, referral, or a hearing, and then the removal of that investigating attorney process. I'm happy to answer any questions. This is the first reading of this ordinance. If you all would like to make other changes, please let me know. But this does take out about 60 days from the proposed timeline.
So I see a motion by Councilmember Boney, second by Councilmember Marulas. I have some of the council members in the queue. So let me start off with recognizing Councilmember Boney.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you, E-Joyce, again for working with the newly minted Ethics Commission and for working through these changes. And I'm very supportive of all of these amendments to the current ordinance, including this recent change, which, like you say, eliminates about 60 days. I know many times people file these types of complaints, and you hear complaints that they hadn't gotten a response or feedback in a certain time frame. And I love the fact that now it really gives the power to the Ethics Commission, which is really what the intent of this was to be, to have this third-party entity take a look at these complaints and determine whether they needed to move forward or not. And that's the power that we're giving them, and it takes it out of our hands completely, in staff's hands, and puts it in the hands of these people that have been appointed to do this work. So thank you again for your work, and I'm looking forward to seeing things more improved and more efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. Recognizing Councilmember Emery.
Yes, one of the things that I had a question on is other than the city secretary looking at an ethics complaint that comes in and realizes administratively it's incomplete and takes some action, I guess, to get back with whoever presented the complaint, is there any other time where the council, I shouldn't say the council, the ethics committee would not see a complaint filed by a citizen?
So under the proposal, no. Provided that a complaint is complete, then the city secretary's office would forward it to the commission, the city attorney's office, and a few other folks, the complainant, let them know that the application is complete. But no, there wouldn't be another situation in which the commission would not see that complaint. Okay. Under the current ordinance, the Ethics Commission still see all of the complaints, whether they're complete or not. They see them now.
So again, there's never a situation where an ethics complaint is lodged by a citizen that doesn't get the attention and a review by the Ethics Commission.
No, not under the current ordinance, but under this proposed ordinance, again, if that complaint is incomplete, then they would get notice that it's incomplete.
That's for
And that-
administrative purpose.
For administrative purposes, yes, sir.
The-
So
the-
fill in the blanks.
Yeah, the
technically.
problem would be corrected, and then it would come back, and it would then go
Correct.
to the Ethics Commission.
Exactly.
So again, there's no situation where we're ignoring citizens' ethics complaints.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Motion by Councilmember Boney, second by Councilmember Maroulis. Seeing no one else on the queue, let's go ahead and vote.
Member Emery? The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Item 6C.
If you all don't mind me reading the caption from this
Yeah, go,
podium.
go,
Thank you.
please.
An ordinance of the City of Missouri City, amending Chapter 30 Environment of the Missouri City Code, amending regulations regarding noise, providing for repeal, providing a penalty, and providing for severability.
Okay, presentation. Joyce, you have a presentation?
Yes, sir. So this proposed ordinance essentially establishes a daytime sound limitations of 75 decibels and a nighttime sound limitation of 65 decibels or 5 decibels over the ambient. I did receive a request prior to the meeting that's before you that changes the time frames for the decibel requirements for daytime and nighttime. It simply amends the proposed ordinance to allow the 75 decibels up to 10 p.m. on certain days of the week, and it also allows the 75 decibels up to midnight on Fridays and Saturdays to allow certain businesses and establishments that have kind of places of assembly type of venues to provide them with more time with the higher decibel limit. I'm happy to answer any question you have. I've included a slide that just gives you an idea of what 75 decibels is. You can see from the slide just as examples of what that may sound like. 80 decibels is the sound of a garbage disposal at 3 feet. So you can kind of get an idea as to what 75 decibels sounds like.
Yeah, thank you. Recognizing Councilmember Emery.
Yeah, the question I had on the change to the times,
Yes.
where certain levels of decibels were acceptable. And can you, and that was, those were just for Saturday and Sundays?
So those were just for Fridays and Saturdays.
Fridays and Saturdays?
Yes.
Okay. And there were what?
So the actually the change was for Fridays and Saturdays at 75 up to midnight, and then on the rest of the week up to 10 p.m. At 75 decibels. So there were kind of two primary changes.
Okay. The question I had was there any consideration to maybe making a change on the time frames, like from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. for 75 decibels, and for change it was from 8 p.m. to 6:59, go from 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. at 65 decibels.
Oh, to make it, so that's the opposite of what was requested for the proposed amendment. But you all can certainly have that discussion and decide how you would like to move forward or not on the proposal.
What I was attempting to do is just expand the time frames when we would do the measuring, and to provide additional time for the earlier and the latter time frame?
Wait.
Well, right now, as I understand it, we go from 7 a.m. to 7:59 p.m.
But the proposal would extend that to 10 p.m.
I'm sorry?
The proposed amendment would extend that to 10 p.m. So it would actually do the opposite. It would go in the opposite direction of what you're proposing.
Okay.
But you all can certainly have that discussion and determine.
No, I'm just trying to get an understanding of, and it looks like we broke out Friday and Saturday as some additional
So they would get it.
timeframes.
Yes, sir. So they would have additional time on Fridays and Saturdays up to midnight at 75 decibels.
Okay.
You done? Oh, yeah, more.
I just had a question in the ordinance. Define the property line, if you will. Is that the property line of the complainant? Or is it
it's the
of the-
property line from which the noise is being emitted. So, for example, you have every piece of property is or should be delineated on a plat. So there's a property line where the noise is coming from. I hate to use IT's equipment here as a prop, but let's say this is the building from which the noise is coming from, and this line is the property line. When measured from any point of the property line, the city's ordinance would apply. So, for example, if a person was standing here and it was after hours, they could not have a decibel reading higher than 65. So it's the property line on which the noisemaker is located.
Okay. Is the ordinance also take into consideration residential noises coming from residents where
Correct. So it applies to noises across the board. If let's say someone was having a house party and they were emitting noise louder than 75 decibels during the day, then they could be cited for violating the noise.
Okay, so we're using the same measurements and the same timeframes
Correct.
for residential as we are for
Correct.
for commercial.
Correct. It's
Okay.
just based on time frame.
Okay. Those are
Okay.
my questions. Thank
Right.
you.
All right. Recognizing Councilmember Maroulis.
Joyce, is there a limit of how many violations an establishment can have? So let's say, I think we mentioned earlier, some people would rather just pay the fine and keep going. So is there a limitation on how many violations a business could?
There's not. Each violation is a separate violation under the city's code.
Okay.
So an establishment could be cited every day, possibly multiple times a day if there are multiple infractions.
Okay.
The city would just have to prove up each violation.
Do the decimeters have to be calibrated and certified annually? Do we know?
So it depends on the equipment that's purchased. Different decibel readers have different types of calibration requirements. I don't think that anything has been purchased yet. I know the chief of police has purchased, the department has purchased at least one to kind of work with that to see how that is being or can be used, but it just depends on the equipment.
And then probably a chief question, but is there training involved to make sure you understand the data and all that good stuff? So that there's accuracy across the whole entire force?
Yes, that did come up in our discussions. And back to the calibration, just to answer your question, the one we bought self-calibrates. When you turn it on, each time you turn it on, it self-calibrates. And I've asked IT who's going to purchase these to get ones that self-calibrate to make them as easy as possible to use. And our training, there's YouTube training out there for the different brands you buy. We can have the officers read the owner's manual. So we're going to make sure everybody knows how to use these because that's going to be instrumental if any of these go to court.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
All right. You done? Recognizing Councilmember Brown Marshall.
Okay, thank you. Joyce, I just had a quick question. Where did you find these particular readings that you're sharing with us on the screen?
These readings I got from a county out of California that had done or kind of procured a study for their sound ordinance. I cannot remember if it was San Francisco or what the county was, but it was out of California. But in a search, these are pretty typical.
So I did my own search just to kind of see, and the decibel readings they're just all over the place from one search to another search. So I don't know if the goal here is for us to be able to measure noise and to determine if the noise is too loud, if that's the ultimate goal, or is the goal to totally alleviate noise?
So the goal here is to measure noise at a certain point to determine whether or not that noise is excessive pursuant to the standards that you all set by this policy. And so by establishing specific numbers, specific decibels, that might make it easier for the team to actually kind of have an objective measure on which they can lean on. If they have a decibel reader, they would be able to go to a property from which there's a noise complaint. They would be able to measure what that reading is of the noise, and they would be able to either cite or not, depending on this policy that you all are setting.
And I just can't remember. Do we currently own a decibel reader?
So I know the police department has purchased one just to kind of try it out. But other than that, no, the city does not own decibel readers. So this would require the purchase of decibel readers.
So do we have any test numbers that have come back from any type of noise reading, in particular involving the complaints that we've been receiving? Can you tell us what those numbers have been?
So the reason we bought these decibel meters is because of the current complaint we're working on. I went out personally during the day and got the ambient level for standing behind Bees Wine Bar, and it fluctuates a little bit. It's just not a steady number, but it fluctuates between 58 and 63 during the day. I had our supervisors go out at night and do the same thing just to get a reading, and that's kind of how we came up with these numbers. And it's about the same. If you get off to the side of Bees Wine Bar, you're kind of picking up the Highway 6 noise, which raises it. But if you get behind it, you're only picking up the sound from the establishment, not the Highway 6 noise.
And that reading is about at the 73 mark.
Oh, no, ma'am. It's during the day when I went out there, it fluctuates between 58 and 63.
And at night?
It's about the same. It's not that different. And it depends on the type of car driving by. There's so many factors, but it's pretty steady.
I think I definitely get what you're saying with the factors, because in looking at most of the dB charts that I've looked at, from 20 dBs, that could be a ticking watch. And that goes all the way up through, if we're saying 75, so you could pick up everything between a ticking watch all the way up through cars moving in that range. So I guess, 75 is the number that we've landed on. Okay.
Recognizing Councilmember Riley.
Thank you. So the 70, just so I understand this correctly, when we're saying 65 decimals versus 75, which noise is louder?
75.
75.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because I was looking at the vacuum cleaner at 10 feet away versus the garbage disposal at 3 feet versus a normal conversation. That was a little bit confusing to understand the different levels. And to the point Councilman Brown Marshall mentioned, that seemed to be awfully low, the 65 during the daytime, because people are coming home. There's a lot of things going on. I know my kids are super loud. I have a house full of kids. And so 65 decimals from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. or 7:59 p.m.
So it's 65 at night. So it would be 65 if the amendment is proposed and passes. It would be from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. But the 65 is a nighttime, so basically an evening measurement. The 75, which is the louder measurement, would be during the day.
During the daytime?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So the proposed amendment is 75 decimals from 7 a.m. to 9:59 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday, and then 75 decimal points from 7 a.m. to midnight on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yes.
And that's to allot for not just commercial, not just this. We're not doing this just for one business.
Right.
This is across the city. This is people having birthday parties, family reunions, or just get-togethers at their home, or at, gatherings in cul-de-sacs, or, meeting at one of the restaurants that may have an outdoor patio. This just doesn't just impact one business or one resident. This impacts everybody across the entire city. So I just want that to be clear. We're not doing this, to consider one business and one resident. This is something holistic that we're looking at to revise and address. That was my other question was, with the change, if council moves forward to change this, when does this go into effect?
So if council votes to make this change, the second reading would be on December 4th. I do recommend an educational period so that businesses can be notified about this change in particular. So that could be from December 5th through December 31st, and then on January 1st, the city could begin enforcement. That would also give staff time to order equipment so that they're able to enforce this proposed ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Recognizing Councilmember Boney.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to concur with Councilwoman Riley in that, I don't ever want us to have reactionary ordinances or amendments that seemingly target individuals or businesses. And in this particular instance, it seems as if this has kind of bubbled up because of what we've been hearing here recently. But it is going to be a citywide ordinance amendment change, not just what we've been hearing with one respective business or several homeowners that have come before us. With that being said, I wanted to ask, there's been a lot of discussion about the noise at, as was mentioned today in public comments, at one particular business. And I think that I have some concerns because that business, this amendment was not in place, or those aspects were not in place when they signed a lease to move to that location. There was nothing in place. And so there was nothing that they were aware of that would have given them any indication that this would be a challenge or a problem for the community, for the residents. And so I don't believe it's fair to any individual or business to be subjected to, to ordinances or to public policy that seems like it's only being put into place because of them or because of that situation. So I'm very, concerned if we try to put something in place. Have we looked at, the noise in that area? Have we measured it? Have we come up with a particular, does this 65 and 75 at those hours fit where this individual would continuously be fined because of this amendment change? These are questions that I need answers to because I don't want to be responsible for, again, seemingly targeting one particular entity.
To be perfectly honest with you, the ambient noise that we measured was only that particular center. We went up and down the entire center. But we did not go further down Highway 6 or off of Cartwright or Texas Parkway.
So between the areas, between the residents and that establishment, was there any measurement like going up to the levee? Or I just want to kind of have a better understanding because, this, I feel as if we're making, or this is being presented for a vote to me because of this incident or this particular situation. And I don't want to, because you mentioned birthday parties. I know people have house parties, and their music is extremely loud, and I don't see any police coming over there on a regular basis. So I just don't want to be responsible for amending something and putting something into place to seemingly just address one.
Right, I understand. And like I said, we took the measurements from the perimeter of the area up and down that strip center. But something you said earlier, and I just kind of want to put your mind at ease if I can. I've been with the city for 28 years, and 10 of those years I spent on nights and took these calls for service many, many times. And something needs to be changed. The ordinance needs to be changed because it's just too subjective. And I've been dealing with it for 28 years in the city. And whether you approve it or not, we need something easier for the officers to determine whether or not is a violation of the ordinance. So I come with you that I have a history here. I've been to countless noise disturbance calls. I couldn't even tell you. And we answer the same questions all the time. Well, it's not loud to me. The complaint is who's making the noise. It's not loud to me. Well, your neighbor does think it's loud. And the officers are in the middle.
I just last want to say these final two things. I just want to make sure we're treating everyone fairly across the board, and we're not just singling out picking winners and losers.
No.
I'm just.
And this proposed ordinance is not intended to address any specific instance. It's really to address the city's noise ordinance from a policy perspective for all locations within the city. So it's not to specifically address one item.
And then lastly, I just want to say, I believe from what I hear and know that Officer Santos is a great officer, and to hear those type of remarks about one of our good Missouri City police officers, I just want to put on record that having a noise complaint does not equate having poor officers or poor staff. So I just want to put that on the record.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Joyce, I do have a couple of questions.
Yes.
Do we have an ordinance in place today?
Yes, we do.
We do have it.
Yes.
So what made you put why is this coming before council
So
today?
this is coming before council because I received requests from council members to look at the existing ordinance in order to make it more measurable for our officers.
So that's why you're putting this forth together?
Correct.
Okay. So this is not particular to a business, this is across the city?
This would apply across the city. Yes, sir.
So how many complaints of noise issues that we have had for this in order to reconsider this?
I don't know the exact
Who would know that?
of noise complaints. We could certainly research that and provide it to you on second reading.
My question was, I'll repeat it again. How many complaints have we received about noises in order for us to bring this on today?
So in order for a council member to request an ordinance, there's not a
I'm not asking you what
threshold.
Councilmember did. How many complaints do we have today against residents or businesses that are allocated for this change in this ordinance is what I'm asking.
That I don't know.
Okay.
But I can certainly provide that to you at the next reading.
Okay.
We can include that.
So without knowing that, I can't make a decision as to what we're talking about. Is this 20 complaints? Is it 50 complaints? Is it residential? Is it business? Where is this going?
Okay. So the noise complaints I'm aware of relate to commercial.
It's related to commercial?
Yes.
Okay, then I do have a question for City Manager, if I may, with Development Services. Thank you, Jennifer. So, as the city attorney said, commercials. Of all the commercials that we pretty much have in the city, are they all in, or are they all situated in a proper zoning?
Say one more time.
Are they all situated in a proper zoning where they should be?
Any commercial use legally operating
has to have a commercial zoning designation.
Okay, so any restaurants that has, we are coming out with this patio program, right? So when you talk about the patio programs, there's certain restaurants have patios outside. So are those within zoning?
Yes. Every piece of property has a zoning designation.
Okay, so restaurants, anything that pertains to business that would go outside, right?
Yes.
Outside of the doors. We say, so you would have that. So when you approve those, or when those are getting commercially approved, do we look at these noise ordinances as well, even with the patio program?
No, noise is not a function of zone. Well, it's a function of zoning, but it's not part of the permit approval process.
Okay, so would you say every business that we have in Missouri City, in this city, regardless of the district, they're all situated in a proper zoning where they should be?
So I think it's a fluid thing. So, zoning is a snapshot in time where a piece of property is zoned a piece away. Zoning is property rights. So it only changes if it goes through an amendment process once it's established. So our zoning and all of these build off of each other. So the noise ordinance or any, part of the code of ordinances, they all build, they work in unison. So your zoning is set up where you have different layers of intensity of commercial uses or residential uses. They're situated ideally not to be in conflict with each other. That's part of the tool of zoning. Do we have instances where we may have conflicts? That may occur. And then you look at it to determine, what needs to be amended, what your zoning regulations, need to be revisited, things like that.
Okay, thank you. So, Joyce, you mentioned that this was commercial.
Yes.
Right? So that's why I asked that question. So how many commercial, so is there complaints? I mean, why are we reconsidering this ordinance? I mean, based off of commercial? Is there an issue is what I'm trying to figure out.
Sure, and I think that there's definitely been an issue that this council has seen and that staff has seen as it relates to staff's ability to measure noise.
And I understand. My question is, going back to what Councilmember Boney asked, how many complaints and how many businesses or how many commercials have we received complaints for?
I know of 2, at least, commercial businesses that have received complaints. But as I mentioned earlier, I don't have a complete report for you, but I'm happy to provide that at the next meeting.
I like to see that.
Yes, sir.
All right, recognizing Councilmember Boney.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to follow up and just ask about the whether we could have like a staggered decibel amount between certain hours as opposed to just saying daytime from X to X. So, for instance, up to, say, 10 o'clock, have the, when does the daytime start and end as far as the recommendation?
So the initial proposed ordinance has the daytime start at 7 a.m. and end at 7:59 p.m. There is a proposal before you all that would extend that time frame on Mondays Sundays through Thursdays from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. But again, that's up to your discretion if you all decide to go with that proposed amendment or not. But there are set time frames on specific days of the week under the proposed amendment.
So my question to you, Interim Chief and City Manager, if we had 75 be the proposed daytime from 7 a.m. to, in essence, 8 o'clock, and then from 8 to midnight, having it reduced to 70, and then from midnight to 7, having it reduced to 65, do you see how would that address the issue? How would that provide you all with any type of less ambiguity as it relates to how the current ordinance reads? Do you think
honestly,
it would solve
having
the
the
issue?
3 different time frames with the 3 different levels may cause confusion.
Okay.
It's nothing we can't overcome if that's what the council decides. But if I'm a citizen, looking at it from the citizen's perspective, I'm not sure what level I can have my noise at if there's 3 different levels. But as a department, we can overcome that through training if that's what you decide.
Well, I'm just trying to, again, I'm just thinking about businesses that are currently in places that this was not applicable. And so if we're not talking about grandfathering them when this amendment goes into place, then I'm just, again, I definitely want the quality of life of our residents to continue to be enhanced and not impacted in a negative way, but I don't also want to punish, our businesses. We say we're open for business and we're pro-business in Missouri City, so I don't want to pick a side here, like which baby do you save, but at the end of the day, I just don't want to punish our businesses, and I definitely don't want to not address the concerns of our residents. I said our businesses, and then the concerns of our residents. I want to try to find a healthy balance. So I thought maybe that could help strike that. I don't know.
I honestly think it might confuse it, but I think the spirit behind the ordinance is to have something measurable for the officers to be able to make a determination.
Thank you.
I'm going to step in for the mayor. He said leave. Next on the request to speak is Brown Marshall.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And I do thank you, E. Joyce, for working to get the police something so that they can have that's tangible. So I just had 3 questions.
Yes.
The measuring, where does that occur? Does that occur from the complainant's property line? Or
It occurs from, let's say the respondent would be a business, it would occur from the business's property line.
okay, but if it's at my home, let's say, would that reading occur from my home?
No. So the way the ordinance is drafted, the noise, the sound should not be louder than the set 65, 75 numbers from the property line of the place where the noise is coming from. So it would be, it would essentially be, the person is required to maintain the noise in accordance with whatever policy you all establish within the boundaries of their property. So as the chief said, they would go to the property line, somewhere along the property line, and measure the sound from that person's the business's property line.
Okay. Thank you. And I did hear you say that the first time. I just needed clarity.
No worries.
So do we know if there are any studies available that test the actual noise that emits across water?
Across water?
Mm-hmm.
I do not know that.
Do we know of any studies or anything that tests noise that emits across levees?
No.
Is it possible that we could get a professional opinion on those?
That would require operational resources, so I could certainly work with the city manager to find out how we could work through that.
I would, and the reason why I'm asking for that, because I'm having a hard time with this, for some of the reasons that some of the other council members have stated as well. I want to get the police to a certain number. I live personally, my personal experience, I live across a lake. And if they have an event way up at my community's clubhouse, I hear all of the music. I hear the bass, but it doesn't bother me. So I'm trying to understand where we're going with this. How is it that we're going to measure the noise? Or are we trying to alleviate all noise? Or are we, really what are we trying to do here?
Sure. So at this point, it sounds like there are a lot of questions. So I would recommend that we pull this item and bring it back to you all when we have additional information.
I would really appreciate that if my colleagues would support that.
Agreed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We need to make a motion for that?
I'd like to I'm next in the queue.
Next in line is
So I support the police having a measurable tool. I live near neighbors who live behind a hotel, behind a brick wall, actually 2 brick walls, and the kids swim in the pool, and it's miserable. So it's not just a restaurant, it's hotels, it's a variety of things. Construction. Last summer, we had a mud district go in and just take down a whole, I think they were sandblasting a whole water tower, right? And neighbors were upset, so it can happen anywhere. My question for you, E. Joyce, is what about special events? Juneteenth. We just did Diwali the other day. How does that work? Do they have to come in and ask for permission to exceed the dB?
So under the proposed ordinance, there is not an exception or a mechanism for exceptions. However, if that's of interest, I know that a neighboring city does have kind of a festival limit, a festival site limit, so that's something that we can also explore.
I think so. Lastly, I think, Chief, while we're working on these other details, if you guys can continue to sample data, and that way we have some information to go back and look at, that would be really great.
So in the meantime, we'll go out and get some noise levels at various locations throughout the city if that'd be beneficial.
That would be great. And that way we have data. Thank you.
Next is Council Lady Riley.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I want to make a statement, then I have two questions. I sympathize with the residents who have genuinely experienced noise. This one particular situation that keeps being brought up in public comment is not the only incident where we hear about as well. Me personally, I live behind two neighbors that love to have celebrations and festivals in their backyard, and this is almost every single weekend. And for me personally, I have a lot of kids, so noise doesn't bother me. But after a certain point in the night, by midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm kind of ready for the party to come to a close. So when we're talking about this noise ordinance, it's not to tailor to, and I want to cater to one business, because when we say that we are welcoming all these different businesses to come into lease property or to develop in commercially zoned property, I think the misunderstanding comes from when residents are accustomed to living around dormant land. And we definitely want to always encourage our residents, know what property is zoned when you're purchasing a home there. It's not just going to sit there dormant for decades. It's going to be developed at some point. And it's unfair to the residents when these properties do get developed. But at the same token, it's not fair to the commercial properties who purchased that land, or they build or they leased space for the purpose intended for what it's zoned for. And I think we're just in a very complicated situation. We're trying to please our residents across the city, as well as making sure that our businesses have a place to operate, because this city runs off of property tax and sales tax. So we need both parties working together. And we're not going to be able to make everybody happy on this one. But the one thing that I did want to share, that we can't advocate to close businesses. And that's not what we're here to do. And we can't advocate to upset residents either. So we've got to have a happy medium and a compromise from both residents and businesses. We have a business across the tracks in Colony Crossing that been complaining about noise for decades, and it was never addressed. And so when we're talking and taking these complaints, we need to be organic in our approach to be understanding that there's going to be some noise in your neighborhood, whether it's from your neighbor's backyard, barking dog, kids playing in the swimming pools, or whether it's from commercial. And I'm going to ask that all of our residents be mindful of how we interact with our businesses, and businesses to be the same way. My question is, how much is this going to cost the city purchasing all of these decimal points? Because we've never had to do this before under our old ordinances with the decimal point being lower. Now we're looking to increase it, and we're having to make a financial investment taken out of our budget to appease a new ordinance at the request of council, but also to appease the community as well. So how much is this going to cost us?
We're estimating about $25,000.
So this ordinance is going to cost the city, the taxpayers, $25,000. My second question is, when the officers, and this is probably for Chief Harris, When the officers are required to go back there and take the reading, how far away from that particular property where the noise is being complained from will they have to stand? Because, and the reason I'm asking is, if we look at that slide, can you pull that slide back up? 60 decibels, normal conversation is 5 feet. My kids break that every single day. 70 decibels is a vacuum cleaner 10 feet away. So when your officers are being sent out there to take this reading, how far away up from the property are they going to stand? Which one of these are they supposed to comply with?
So the way the proposed ordinance reads, it would be anywhere on the property line. So common sense to me would say you would go the furthest from the business as long as you're still on the property line.
And see, that's something that needs to be identified. How far away are they supposed to stand? Because one officer may stand right next to the building. The next one may stand 3-4 feet away. That needs to be fleshed out as well, because your officers are extremely intelligent, but what one does and the next one does is not going to be consistent, and that wouldn't be fair to the businesses or even to the residents. And then my other question was in reference to, are these machines going to be able to isolate any existing noises? Because there are properties that have multiple entertainment businesses, and if they're all playing music and all entertaining or have a patio, entertainment going on as well, how do they isolate the excess noise that's coming from around?
So we haven't bought the decibel readers yet, but I can tell you the one that we did buy. There's settings on there that you can distinguish between machinery, human voice, and music. So there's different settings you can push or set it on to determine the noise you're looking to read.
Okay, and how long does this, how do you capture that data? Is it saved in the machine that y'all are purchasing?
No, ma'am. What we would do is the officers, it's a handheld device. They would have it in front of their body cameras. So it's recorded, and if the call is finished, they would notate that and clear in the notes what the reading is, and it's there forever.
And so what, and I'm just asking a question. What happens if that decimal point is below the approved, reading, but the complainant is still saying it's too loud, and you're just inputting what it says on there? Are we going to have to now save body cam footage to support that particular data reading?
Well, we already saved the body camera footage. That's already in place. But I think what you're asking is if we continue to get repeated calls where the noise is not in violation, that's something we'll address at the time, and it'll be a case-by-case basis. And it's the supervisor will be given through his chain of command, probably up to me when we determine that we're no longer going to respond to a call if it makes it to that point.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you, E. Joyce.
Thank you. I'm next on the questions. Just for add some context to this, the reason why I was one of the sponsors to bring this ordinance forward is because the existing ordinance didn't have any way of measuring. It was really subjective. So you had an officer to go out there and listen to whatever the noise level is and make a subjective decision that, hey, that's too loud, or no, that's okay. Well, that's all right, but from officer to officer, you're not going to get any consistency. So what we said is, let's see what we can do as far as setting up an ordinance that measured the decibels and to have a piece of equipment that measured those items so that when the officer went out to that location, he had something or she had something to monitor and register whatever the noise level might be. So that's the reason why we're here, or why this is on the agenda, because we had one particular case where we were continually getting concerns expressed and calls to PD to come out and check for noise violations. Well, that's fine. But again, if whoever you send out there, they may have a different perception of what's, noise and what's acceptable. So we wanted to set something in the ordinance that would measure and say what the ranges might be acceptable at the different times. Now, that was the initial requirement or the initial reason for bringing this forward. Now, obviously we've got a number of other questions that have been asked that we have to address. I think unless someone wants to continue on with the conversation, maybe we should look at deferring this item until the next meeting. But in the meantime, I think we need to collect a lot of information to help us make a decision what's right and what's wrong.
And it might not be the next meeting because it might take some time to actually procure someone to conduct a study. So just so everyone's expectations are in the same place, it might not be the next meeting.
But I guess what I would request, if somebody's going to make a complaint, let's make sure that it's something that's valid and can be supported. Because every time a complaint is made, we take an officer off the street to listen to that, and that takes him away from what his primary goal and responsibilities are, and that's to keep us safe and to fight crime. That doesn't say that we ignore situations where we have excessive noise, and so we've got to take those residents' concerns into consideration also. But again, I think as the Council Lady Riley said, we've got to see if we can come up with some kind of agreement that's amenable to both the businesses that we have in Missouri City and our residents, because we have an obligation to both of those. So with that, who wants to make a motion?
We have someone in the queue.
Okay.
Me?
Okay. Motion was by, my eyes are going, Brown Marshall? Oh, are you still in the queue?
I'm back in the queue.
Oh, okay, well.
Hanging out in the queue.
Well, scrap that motion request.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. In looking at the comparative cities that you guys provided to us in the packet, the one that sticks out to me the most is actually the city of Houston's. And what I like the most about theirs is that they have a tiered approach: daily, extended daily, annual, of course, commercial. And one of the measurements that they do is they take a measurement from a residence as it relates to commercial. So I would really like for us to see us expand our ordinance to consider something of that magnitude, more so because to me, it addresses the actual elephant in the room. Thank you.
Councilman Boney.
Yes, first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for, I always like to hear why things are introduced or why people are voting or not voting on something. It's always helpful to hear, so that was very good context. I just wanted to point out a couple of things. I looked up, some of the decibel readings, and then looking at the 75 decibel range, 75, 80 decibel range, says it equates to heavy traffic, window air conditioner, a noisy restaurant, and a power lawn mower. And so I just think that as we're looking at all of these things, we need to look at, everything needs to be looked at and based off of what it is that the situation requires. I mean, if you have a commercial property that just got built next to Councilmember Riley's point, the zoning that we had at that time allowed for that particular commercial property to be built in that area. We didn't require them to put a sound wall or anything up at the time it was built. So now you have a business, in this particular instance, that is signed a long-term lease, spent thousands and thousands of dollars for build out, and are now, seemingly, impacting the residents in that area. And so it's a healthy balance that's needed. So I just want us to take a look at that approach. And with that, I'd like to make a motion to delay this until next to a time to be determined.
See no one else on the questioning list. We have a motion to defer item, what is that, 6C, till, can we set the next date for review, or?
It sounds like the motion was for an indefinite time frame. So there wasn't there was not a specific date
There wasn't
given.
the time.
No.
So, knowing all the questions that have come up, what do we have any kind of estimate of what it's going to take to try to get some of the answers to these questions, so that we come back prepared and we're not back at the drawing board again?
We can give an estimate after we've had time to convene, and because we are in the middle of going into the holidays and we're taking vacation, so we'll come up with an estimate once we can convene the staff and see what's involved. I think
you don't want to give us a suggestion right now of how long? Well, I'm just trying to see what is it going to take to get it back on the agenda.
It's going to be at least a couple of meetings.
Okay.
I'm hoping that we'll have it by the time we have our retreat.
Okay.
We are planning for a retreat in January, February, so this could be one of those items if we don't get the information before then.
Okay. With that I'm sorry? May you ask one question? Yes, you may.
You're so kind. So in the meantime, Chief, when you and your staff receive any noise calls, knowing that no established threshold will be put forth this evening, how will you all handle those calls?
They will be handled as they've always been handled. The officer goes out, listens to the noise, kind of makes an opinion of his that yes, it is excessive, and may issue a citation. We typically try to address these with warnings. Those are how they're handled 99% of the time with warnings. We have to repeatedly go out, and yes, sometimes issue a citation.
Okay.
What if you...
I yield back. You got to put yourself in the queue.
Yeah, let me put myself in the queue. All right.
He's usually both.
Yeah. At what point in time do you determine that the same complaint is being made, yet there's no tangible means of determining whether a citation needs to be issued or not?
Once again, those situations, Mayor Pro Tem, we're relying on the officer to hear what the complainant is hearing. And again, putting the officer in the middle to make a determination. That's how it's been done my whole time here.
Mm-hmm.
Putting the officer's asked to make a decision. If it's so obvious that noise is at a level that is disruptive to, and we also look at how many callers we've had. If we've had multiple callers, that's what that factors into it as well.
Multiple callers? How about...
Multiple callers from different locations surrounding where the noise is coming from.
Okay.
That's something else the officers factor into.
Okay. With that, I don't see anybody else in the queue. We have a motion by Councilman Boney and a second by Council Lady Riley to defer the ordinance change or consideration to a date to be determined. Is that
correct?
Is that sufficient?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So with that motion and second, let's vote.
The motion carries 6-0.
Okay. I believe that that would close out that agenda item.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we can go on to the next one.
Yes. Item 7A is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Missouri City, Texas, authorizing and approving membership in the city served by CenterPoint Gas for the purpose of protecting the interests of the city and its residents with respect to CenterPoint matters, suspending the December 4th, 2023 effective date of the proposal by CenterPoint Energy Resources Corporation doing business as CenterPoint Energy NTEX and CenterPoint Energy Texas Gas to change rates, and containing certain provisions relating to the subject. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, this item suspends CenterPoint's proposed rate increase for gas. The current proposed date for effective date is December 4th. This will suspend that rate for 90 days to allow the coalition of cities to do research to determine whether or not those rates are indeed reasonable.
Okay, we have a motion by Council Lady Brown Marshall, second by Maroulis. Is there any questions before we vote? There's no one in the queue, so with that, let's vote.
The motion carries 6-0.
Okay. City Council announcements. Let's start, don't want to break the chain. Marshall Brown?
Sure. Oh, my 3 minutes are starting. That's right. Brown Marshall, he kind of threw me off with the name. That's okay.
Wait a minute. Restart that 3 minutes, will you?
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I was happy to drive down FM 2234 the other day to see Blink Fitness open and bright and shining. That's pretty exciting. It's been a long time since we've had a business to go into that facility over there, so that's pretty exciting. Read some kind of comments out on social media about hair stores and different things that pop up, but I just wanted to make note that the beauty industry is very real and it's very much alive. It's $1 billion industry. And yes, we do want to see different types of businesses to come to our city, and I wholeheartedly support those. But for those beauty industry businesses that are out there, thank you for bringing that tax base to our city. We just want you to do a great job. Keep your stores looking good. Keep the outside of them looking good. And I think just for myself and along with my colleagues, we are looking for additional businesses that want to come here and do business with us. I want to thank the staff for allowing myself to pop in at Thanksgiving at the Ponderosa. It was a lot of fun. It looked like you guys had a great time. And it was just nice seeing almost 400 smiling faces that are willing participants to work for the city and to do great work for our city. I truly, truly appreciate you guys and all of your efforts that you do in and around the city. I want to say congratulations to Farrell Bonner and Universally Made on a successful Veterans Day luncheon that was held here at our City Hall campus. And on today, I had the honor of attending the funeral of Missouri City's homegrown Ms. Lauren Robinson Holiday. It was a beautiful service, and I definitely want to keep her and her family, uplifted. And I just want to express to everyone to hug a little bit more on your family and hug a little bit more on your friends if you can. Sure would appreciate that. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is our at-large, position 2.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to remind everybody that the Small Business Advisory Committee mixer, our final mixer for the year, and our holiday mixer, which will be an ugly sweater theme party, will be Tuesday, December 5th from 6:30 until 8 at Johnny Tamale. So if you own a Missouri City business, please come out and join us. We're going to have lots of fun in mixing amongst the businesses. I also wanted to say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. This is one of my favorite times of the year. If you're traveling, please be safe. And like Councilmember Brown Marshall said, hug on your loved ones. Myself and Mayor Ellicott, and Councilmember Brown Marshall, we all attended the funeral of Lauren Robinson Holiday, very close with her mother. And it was a beautiful homegoing ceremony. And prayers to the other 3 families that lost their lives. All of them went to Missouri City high schools. And so we want to keep them in our prayers. So, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
District A, Councilman Riley.
Council lady? No. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and you're doing an absolute fabulous job. I want to first of all say congratulations to our city secretary, Crystal Roan, for her new board appointment. Congratulations. That's a great milestone and achievement, and a credit to your, yes. I want to say happy Veterans Day and happy Veterans celebrations. The city of Missouri City hosted our annual here in the community center. It was wonderful. And then to follow up with Farrell Bonner's 4th annual May Veterans celebration was absolutely wonderful too, where the mayor gave gracious words. I had an opportunity to attend the HCC Missouri City Town Hall to meet our new chancellor, Margaret Ford Fisher, and to have words from the podium with Dr. Madeline Barillo Hopkins. Fortunate to receive some recognitions for some of the work that I've done, as well as celebrating some other people's work in the community, like Celebrating You, their youth community service. So thank you to Lisa Stillwell for bringing opportunities for students to give back and do community service. They were able to make up about 2,500 bags to donate to the Houston's Meals organization, where they're going to be sending out meals across that area. Congratulations to Palmer House, who gave out 200 baskets to families in the community. They're one of our new partners utilizing our CDBG funds. I was fortunate to donate a basket as well. And then, of course, welcoming Families Helping Families organization to Fort Bend in District A. They worked in consolidation with Precinct 2 Constable Darrell Smith to give out over 400 Thanksgiving baskets to families in Missouri City. Congratulations to Pastor Jacob Matthews for his 22 years in ministry, for sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. We had an opportunity to go there and share great words with him and to thank him. I want to offer my condolences to Manuel Cortez, one of my District A very dedicated and visible constituents. He's lost his wife of decades of years, Miss Joyce Marie Cortez. So your family is definitely in our prayers. And then lastly, I want to say happy birthday to my Celia. She is no longer a teenager. She finally made it to the big 2-0. I'm so proud of her. And of course, happy anniversary to me and the most amazing man in my life, Mr. Larry Riley. I know you watching out there. No, you're not. But thank you so much for your love and your support of our kids and all the stuff that we do and all the stuff you put up with me about. And then lastly, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank y'all so much. Eat lots of turkey, bacon, and chips and all that stuff you're going to eat. And then go spend all your money on Black Friday. So, and then we'll see y'all back next week. Have a great one.
Thank you. Councilmember Oni, District B.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'll try to rush through all of this. Attended the Veterans Day breakfast and celebration. Salute to Major General Isaac Johnson and Colonel Helen George, who joined us, as well as all of the veterans. Great time. I was extremely proud to once again represent Missouri City as an active part of the National League of Cities this past week. I serve currently on the Community and Economic Development Federal Advocacy Committee, on the Race Equity and Leadership Council, and the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, to which I'm happy to announce and report that I was unanimously reelected by my peers from across the country continue to serve as the Region 11 Director for NBC Leo. And I was also happy to have one of my policy resolutions to advocate for the passage of the Outdoors for All Act, which will help to try to drive dollars for parks and outdoor recreation opportunities from a federal level passed by the NLC Board of Directors. So really excited about the work we're doing at National League of Cities and through NBC Leo. Continued prayers for Miss Cynthia Bennett on the unfortunate loss of her daughter, Lauren. I attended the funeral on today. It was well attended, and it showed just how much she was loved and cherished. And I was able to hug Cynthia after the funeral, and she's seemingly, taking this, of course, hard, but standing strong. And we continue to stand in prayer with her. Also, condolences to to the family and of my friend, longtime City of Houston, worker, as well as community advocate, Alvin Bird, who passed away on today. Very, very tough loss, and he'll definitely be missed. I want to give a shout out and happy belated Founders Day to the ladies of Sigma Gamma Rho, who celebrated 101 years of service to the community. And of course, the good brothers of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, who celebrated 112 years of exemplifying, don't cough back there, sir, of exemplifying our 4 cardinal principles of manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. Root to the good bros. Lastly, I just want to talk about the fact that I'm very happy that once again, we showed just how much we cherish our employees and invest in our employees by the passage of this new program, first of a kind program in Missouri City, longevity program. I want to thank your city manager and, Shauna, our city human resources director, for bringing this up to us so that we can show just how much we value all of our employees. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Councilmember Maroulis, District
I'm trying to think
C.
I was going to say something in Greek just to top that. I know there was a lot of focus on the football players, but, may Lauren's memory be eternal. She actually used to live in my neighborhood, Miss Bennett did, so she was real close to home. I love your comments about the beauty supply. Had it not been for a great landlord like Mr. Saw, had it not been for a great investor, had it not been for the city of Missouri City to step forward and help with TERS and all those things, that beauty supply store would be there. So thank you all for all you do to bring in great businesses. The mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and I attended the Fire Rescue Award ceremony. It was amazing. Packed house, families celebrating their loved ones, their heroes, our heroes. I want to congratulate Ms. Jasso for Firefighter of the Year. I hear she is a workhorse and a fantastic firefighter. Congrats to Chief Hager. Not only can he cook barbecue, but he is the Lifetime Achievement Award for 50 years with the city of Missouri City and in fire. And the mayor had a great video on Are You Worth It? And I thought that went a long way. So thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. I have just several items. I also attended the Maid turkey breakfast. Well, actually it was lunch in honor of our veterans. And unfortunately, I had too many turkey presentations to go to, Thanksgiving presentations. So I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to have a Thanksgiving turkey at the house. We had the stuffing the fire truck and police cruiser that went over real well. So again, thanks to our fire and our police for stepping up and being able to bring some needed relief to some of the recipients of the food that they were able to collect. I attended on a personal note, I attended a service for Bob Dimmitt. He was a longtime Missouri City and Quail Valley resident. I knew him well. He was really active in the Quail Valley area, so he'll be missed by many. And I also, with Councilman Maroulis, attended the Fire and Rescue Pinning and Awards presentation That was really outstanding. They packed the community center, and the food was great. The camaraderie was great, and they were able to get a fire truck into the community center. If you can believe that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
We had one of it wasn't the big ladder truck, but that's probably next year he'll try that. But this year he had the fire truck in there, no scratches on it, so it was quite an event, and I want to thank Fire and Police for putting that together. But obviously it was for the fire, for their pinning and awards. And with that, I still have 44 seconds, which is a record. So, we don't have a closed executive session, is that correct? So we reconvene and have a good Thanksgiving. And again, don't eat too much turkey. At 8:55.